Welcome, everybody. We are going to get started. I think today, rather than me talking at the start first, we're going to dive right into the questions on Instagram because there were so many really interesting questions that I know a lot of people struggle with, run into all the time. Welcome to everybody that's over in the live chat. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. And so, yeah, there's already a bunch of people here. So everybody over in the live chat, I'll throw over to the topics that I've got in front of me from the Instagram questions that people submitted. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. I'll throw out the topics, and then you decide which one you want us to begin with. So here are the topics I've got in front of me right now. One, sex addiction, and how do you overcome it? Let's say two, how do you deal with losing 10 plus years of life to struggling with mental illness? Right? So really common, people are like, we really regret the years we spent on it, and it becomes a new thing to do compulsions around. Three, how can we better practice acceptance for depression while we're in the middle of it? Four, how do I encourage my partner when it comes to doing ERP? Like, how do I push them? What's too much? I know a big problem that a lot of family members, partners, the works always run into. Let's call this like another, I think we're on, five. What makes, the question here is what, like the top, so we'll say the topic is recovery from OCD. There were a bunch of questions on like, why do you think you can recover? And so I always find that one really interesting because, of course, I haven't struggled with mental illness in many years. So I always like the idea that I'm somehow going to start struggling with it again. I always find fascinating. So we'll talk about that. I think we're on 6 now. Why do we feel things we're scared of feeling? And this one in particular was about psychosis. Because I'm afraid of psychosis, then I start to experience the symptoms of psychosis. So why is that? And then mindfulness. Aren't we just avoiding problems? I think that's number 7. So there's a bunch of topics. Throw it over everybody on the live chat. Which one do you think we should dive into first? And I see, acceptance of depression. Okay, acceptance of depression. Hey, welcome to everybody that's joining. Some other questions. Mental fitness tips for ADHD. Really, really awesome to look into. And then also the problem-solving monster. Another vote for depression. Okay, let's just jump right into depression. How can we better practice acceptance for depression when we're deep in it? So I find it is interesting that this person called out that kind of qualifier there, well, we're deep in it. Because I think, so I'm going to talk about 2 things here. So one, how do we start practicing acceptance so we don't end up back in the depression hole? But then also, what do we do once we're in it? So depression was the first thing that I was diagnosed with, in part because it was something I could recognize. Like I recognized that now every time I experienced anything, my brain just automatically went to the worst possible scenario. I felt like I was gonna just break down and cry at any moment. I didn't want to do anything. I hated everything. And I was able to see that was different than how my brain, at least how I felt my brain typically operated. In that scenario, it was still really about changing the things I was doing. So that really horrible, difficult feeling was there. And I had to change my actions while letting that horrible, difficult, terrible, disastrous feeling be there. And what I learned through that experience was that was something I needed to do much earlier. Because I had essentially been practicing my way up into depression. That the patterns of thinking and reacting to the physical feelings in me and the stuff I was doing in my head were patterns I practiced throughout my life for years. So on one hand, once we're deep in it, I mean, we're still going to have to do the work. And so in those situations, it can really help to work with somebody, similar to getting a personal fitness trainer. Right? If we have years of always trying to avoid kind of sweating and difficult feelings when we're exercising, then it really helps to have somebody to guide us through pushing into those difficult feelings, because absolutely it is super difficult, and it feels terrible because already my brain was in the spot where it's just like, oh, everything sucks, and if you fail at anything, that's the end of the world, and even if you don't fail at anything, that's the end of the world, and everybody is wrong, everything sucks, you're wrong, you suck, etc. And so that's how my brain approached everything. And so I still had to then work on changing things while having that experience. So it was really helpful in not listening to my brain, to have somebody else's brain to follow. So that would be my big tip there when it comes to acceptance when we're in it. But then what we really need to work on is acceptance before. And that means not waiting until it gets that bad. It's about recognizing that those practices, so a lot of times, like judging everything, oh, that sucks, oh, I don't like that. All I was doing there was teaching my brain, everything sucks. You don't like anything. And so, of course, it was depressed, right? Because everything sucked. Like, it's just kind of naturally going, oh, wow, like this guy spends all day just listing out all the reasons why all of his thoughts, all of his feelings, and everything around him sucks. So, of course, then eventually everything sucks. So learning how to cut out those practices beforehand, but also learning how to cut out the compulsions I was doing around feelings. Recognizing that something as simple as procrastinating on like doing like a little bit of work because I didn't feel like it. Like coming home and being like, oh, I have all this work to do because I didn't do it during the day because I was procrastinating, but now I'm all stressed. I just have to, watch some YouTube videos and then get the feeling of motivation, watch some inspirational videos, and then I can do the work. That pattern is the pattern that takes us into depression, right? I have a bad feeling and I can't do anything with this bad feeling, so I need to fix it, and then I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. And so all that happens there is the brain just keeps, giving us bigger and bigger unwanted feelings until the feeling is so big and it's so permanent that we can't do anything with it. And then we have to get somebody else to help us. So really key, sometimes we're deep in it and we have to practice acceptance, but really look at how you can practice accepting, these feelings aren't like depression, they're not clinical, but how can you accept difficult feelings in your everyday life? And that's going to be kind of the most useful practice for preventing getting into that depression hole. Okay, so there we go. I see a bunch of people landing into the live chat. Welcome, everybody. I hope your acceptance work is going well. I see another person asked about acceptance of lost time. So we'll take a look at that. I'm drinking today. Also we have an awesome bird mug from Bird Strips. I know some of you probably see me share artwork from Bird Strips before, but I have really strong coffee in here. And the coffee is so grainy. The coffee grounds, it's a French press. The coffee grounds are so grainy in there. They're getting caught in my throat. So I may have to clear my throat a couple of times or start choking. Don't worry. It's just the coffee. How to maintain recovery. A question about NoFap. Okay, so we will, Skullback here is chilling on the books. I'm excited. These are like all different translations of You Are Not a Rock and the Mind Workout. I know the Mandarin edition, the Mandarin translation is coming out in Taiwan this coming week. And that's really cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how things are translated into Mandarin because I think that'll be super fun. And Louis, I see you're drinking coffee again. It is enjoyable. I had to cut out caffeine when I was really struggling. And then it was great to learn that was about things I was doing, that the coffee itself does not have anxiety hiding inside of it. That was all about stuff I was doing, and we will talk about what I mean there a bit later when we get to talking about recovery. First up, how to cope with losing 10 plus years of life due to mental health struggles. So really important, the first thing to recognize is this is the struggle. When we identify something as like, we start to judge it. Oh, this is bad. I regret this. We're comparing it to other people. Like that is the practice that creates the struggle. And it's natural that the brain, when we're working on recovery, that the brain is going to try to find new problems to get us caught up in the same old compulsions. And it's really useful to recognize that. This is where we talk about the problem-solving monster. The brain is just cares about the compulsions. Does not care about the topic. So before, the topic might have been, oh, I have horrible intrusive thoughts, or I have this terrible depression I need to fix. And we focus, these bad feelings, these bad thoughts. Maybe it's an addiction. Oh, these bad compulsions, I need to fix them. And then we do lots of compulsions, trying to fix and control and avoid. And that's what the brain is looking for. That's why it throws it up. That's why the brain keeps throwing up the intrusive thoughts. Oh, I give you intrusive thoughts, I give you depression, and then you do all these compulsions to chase relief. And then you feel really good when you get to relief, so then I give you even bigger problems. And that's what you can see happening when the brain latches on to something like, oh, you lost 10 years. And so it creates a problem. Oh, you have to fix this. But also it's the ideal problem that the brain loves, because you're not a time traveler. You can't go back and change something that happened 10 years ago. The brain loves to come up with problems like that. And so what we got to start to realize and shift our focus to is our actions. That it's never about a topic. Mental illness is not about a topic, a special kind of feeling, or whatever. Horrible thoughts, etc. It's about what we do. It's about how we interact with the stuff the brain throws up. So when we see that, the brain throwing up this kind of regret or worry, anxiety thing we want to fix, what we can do is, and I found so useful, is just starting to recognize that basically I have this problem-solving monster in my brain that tries to get me into compulsions. Right? So it's going to see relationships as a problem. It's going to see the past as a problem. It's going to see other people as a problem. It just wants to say, look, here's a problem. You got to fix it. So first I want to recognize that and kind of see it with compassion, because my brain, the problem-solving monster, is here again. And that is wonderful. Right? It loves to do that. And that's a superpower that I can use sometimes. But right now I can see that superpower is not useful to me. Listening to the monster is not useful to me right now. Because if I react to that problem, the problem-solving monster is latching onto, then I'm just going to end up practicing the same unhealthy things that wasted those 10 years. And so I don't want to do that again. Actually, I want to thank my brain. Oh, thank you. Like, I totally agree. I don't want to do that anymore. Thank you so much, brain, for noticing that. And because I don't want to spend any more time chasing the problems you throw up, I'm going to give my time and energy to creating and building the things I want to see in the world in the present. And that's how we can actually also turn that experience from the past into something valuable. Because in that moment, we've learned from it. We said, oh yeah, you know what? This hurts because I really care about living my life. I want to live my life. So how do I do that right now? And through that, we turn that past experience into something really valuable. And we don't start doing the compulsions around it that would lead us to relapse, which would lead us to another 10 years. So everybody, let's learn from what we've done and not spend any more time chasing those problems. We get a choice in this moment to do the things we care about that are good for us and are good for the people around us. So let's do that. I am going to see what's happening over here on the live chat. Oh, Derek, thank you for reading You Are Not a Rock and encouraging other people to snag a copy. Thank you. I love the emojis. Oh, James as well. Yeah, thank you for reading. Orlando, I see you asked about the fear of going crazy. Or they said developing a more serious condition like schizophrenia. Who said it's more serious? So that was a question that also came through on Instagram. Why do we feel things we're scared of feeling? I'm scared of psychosis and feel symptoms. So what you see happening here is what I was just describing there with the problem-solving monster. And you can also, through this, really understand how mental illness works. It is all about, right, us judging things as a problem. I need to fix this. Then we chase that solution, which only creates the very things that we are afraid of or that we want to control. And so that's the thing to keep in mind. And again, could really help to see that the brain is being helpful. Right? So you want to avoid something and you want to feel good about avoiding it and chase certainty about avoiding it. So all the brain is doing, the very helpful, useful brain appliance, that little thought appliance stuck up in your skull, all it's doing is giving you the very things that you need to chase certainty. Right? If you're afraid of developing psychosis, then the brain is going to say, okay, you're afraid of developing psychosis. So I will help you by throwing up all of these uncertainties about psychosis for you to check so you can then get the relief that you are chasing. So it's just the usual addictive cycle. Right? Your brain is going to give you the withdrawal, and then you're going to do the compulsion to get the high of relief and certainty, which then means your brain will give you an even bigger withdrawal. Right? The physical symptoms, the mental urges and thoughts and all of that. And then you'll do more compulsions. And then so the brain is like, okay, well, now I have to give you an even bigger uncertainty, even more physical symptoms. So you'll get even more relief. And that's how we propel this system. So it can really help to accept the stuff your brain throws up and do the things you value. And so this is where, particularly with things like psychosis, I found that the 2 tricks that I talk about in You Are Not a Rock, the mind workout, are really helpful. Right? And so in particular, I find that the trick to accept the worst possible consequences is really useful, because we can bring ourselves back to, okay, since I'm going to develop psychosis later today, absolutely, I can detect symptoms, I'm hearing all sorts of things, etc. But right now I can make a choice. Right now I can do something that I value. And so given the context in which I find myself right now, what do I value doing? Because this is my last day. This is the last day. I'm about to, lose control completely over myself. But right now I can make a choice. And so I don't want to spend that, like we were talking about the regret of mental illness in the past. I don't want to spend my time and energy doing compulsions right now, because this is the last day I get to do the things I care about in life. And at first, when you practice a trick like that, of course, it creates all sorts of anxiety. But that's the great thing. You get the opportunity to accept that, show your brain that, oh, this isn't something we need to fix and control and chase anymore. And what happens when you do that is that your brain no longer has to try helping you. And this was so important, and we'll talk about this when we get into recovery later as well. And in terms of like how do you know that you're not going to relapse? It's because you learn that these are things that we do. Right? If I judge a thought as bad, I say, whoa, I don't want to have psychosis. I have to, like, that shouldn't happen. Oh no, I'm having symptoms right now. These shouldn't be there. I need to control this. All I'm doing there is telling my brain that it should help me by throwing up more intrusive thoughts, more physical sensations, so that I can do all of that checking. Right? I'm doing that, not the brain. The brain is helping me chase the certainty that I have indicated to it I really want to get. You'll see lots of people talking about, like, oh, so on forums and stuff like that, and even I've seen it in books, like, oh, like, you'll struggle with intrusive thoughts forever and stuff like that. That is complete bullshit. Right? I'm the one who does the hating of the thought. I'm the one that goes to the brain, oh, whoa, we shouldn't have this, we have to fix it. As long as you do that, if I kept doing that, then of course I would naturally continue to experience whatever I've labeled as intrusive. But that's me doing that, right? I'm the one that's decided, whoa, I shouldn't have those images. And you can already see this, like, you don't have intrusive thoughts about all sorts of things you like, or all sorts of things you have no particular feelings about. But that's, because you don't care if you have them or not. And so because you don't care if you have them or not, your brain doesn't have to check. Your brain doesn't have to help you try to avoid them. But the moment you say to the brain, whoa, this is bad, we should avoid it, the brain is going to do exactly what it is designed to do. And that is help you chase certainty that thing you've labeled as bad won't happen. And so as long as you chase that, you are going to get the very natural results of that. But yeah, if you stop chasing it, if you stop doing the compulsions, the brain doesn't have to keep giving you those thoughts. So that's why I always say it's kind of the paradox of getting over intrusive thoughts. So the moment we're okay with having the thoughts, then we don't have to have the thoughts anymore. But as long as you want to chase not having the thoughts, you will keep having them. So yeah, it's way better and more highly super recommended to stop doing all of those compulsions to thoughts, and that includes judging them, hating them, labeling them, trying to control them, trying to avoid them. But if you cut out that stuff, yeah, then you don't have them anymore. Just like you don't have all sorts of thoughts that you wouldn't mind having. Let's see now. And Matthew, you asked, so going back to depression, is your depression advice the same for OCD? I had to quit my master's because my OCD anxiety was super intense. My compulsions are low now, but I'm worried about going back to a high stress environment. And so, yeah, it really helped me to see that avoiding things was the compulsion, right? Bad feeling, bad thought, bad whatever comes up, and then I'm like, whoa, we have to get rid of this. So what really helped me was thinking of it like physical fitness, and the brain works the same way. So if I try to pick up a weight, and I'm like, it's too heavy, and then so I'm like, I can't pick it up, and I drop it. That doesn't make me more capable of handling it. That's going to make me less, because if I say, oh, I tried weights, and it was very, very heavy, very stressful, physically, right? Physically painful. I don't have the biology to lift weights. I don't get stronger, right? I need to be gradually pushing into those challenges consistently, building them to have the capacity in my body to handle them. And that's what really helped me with mental health. And so why I always talk about like mental fitness. So what you could look at there, and what I always encourage people, because this question will come up a lot around things like work as well, like a high stress environment. Why is it stressful? What can we change in terms of what we're doing outside of our bodies, in terms of what we're doing in our heads, in terms of the environment? So are there things in the environment that we can change so that we can start to build those skills? And thinking about like the gym, because yeah, absolutely. If you go in the gym and you go straight to the 100-pound weight and you've never exercised before and you try to lift it and you're like, oh, this is impossible, then yeah, of course you'll think it's not doable. But the answer to that isn't to leave the gym. It's to see, okay, that I know that's possible. So what can I change inside my head? What can I change in terms of what I'm doing outside of my head? And what can I change in the environment, knowing that I want to progressively increase the difficulty? And yeah, very quickly we make a lot of changes, and it's very sweaty, and it's often going to feel like we want to drop the weight, but we build the skills, and then very soon we see that we can do not only all of the things we wanted to do before, but we can do all sorts of things that were impossible in the past. Like speaking of books that we've been talking about here, I really noticed that my mental health was bad, terrible, falling apart when I tried to write a book. I'd always wanted to write a book. I think like this is the thing I've always wanted to do. Now I have my chance, and I did nothing. I just did like compulsions all day. And that was also the first time I ever worked at home. So I think it's very applicable to right now. A lot of people are at home potentially for the first time in their lives, and what they're really seeing is that they've always had all sorts of really unhealthy practices in their lives that now are all they have. And I had to change a lot of what I do. And yeah, absolutely. I could have said, oh, like being on my own, or, you know, writing a book. It's not something I can do. But really what I had to do was make changes in how I do. And now it's no problem to be at home and spend, you know, tons of time on my computer all day. And it's totally something we can do in a healthy way. So consider that it's totally, whatever, you know, we struggle with in the past, it's totally possible to do it in a healthy way, but we do have to change stuff. Let's have some flying bird coffee here. And Newt, you just asked, and this goes back to intrusive thoughts. Can emotions be intrusive? And so again, this is the really important thing I'll emphasize here. We're the one that make it intrusive. So you can label anything as intrusive, but what intrusive is actually indicating are the compulsions that we are doing. Right? All the brain is doing is throwing up stuff. So same with an emotion, same with a physical sensation, same with a thought. But if I judge it and go, whoa, what's that mean? This means something, and it shouldn't be there. And I don't like it, and I want to control it, and I want to avoid it. Then I might also say, oh, this is an intrusive thought. It's now a problem that I need to solve, but that is me. I'm doing that. It's just there. It's just an experience. So it really helped me to see that like thoughts and emotions are experiences, same as things like sounds. Like outside here right now, I can hear cars, I can hear birds, there's birds in the trees, I can hear people walking by. That's the same as thoughts and emotions. Right? Like if a thought or an emotion came up right now, I'm going to keep doing the thing that I want to do, right? Have this conversation with all of you. Same as if I hear a bird outside. It's there, and I'm going to keep doing the thing I want to do. But if I got really upset right now, like, oh, like these birds are really messing up, they're interfering, and they're going to distract me, all of that kind of stuff, then it would be a problem. But that is me doing that, all me. I will see. We have what are we doing? 11:25. I'm going to try and hold this to an hour today. I know there's always so many great questions. I've still got 4 down here, 4 or 5 down here to go. But I want to make sure we get to a bunch of questions over in the live chat as well. The pupper. I'm scared compulsions prevent me from acting out. I'm scared compulsions are what prevent me from acting out on my true disgusting desires. I'm way too scared to ever do ERP because I'll act out. Any advice? This is often the case. So even if somebody hasn't labeled something as like true disgusting desires or something like that, but people are generally, and I'd say this is something I struggled with too, like terrified that if we're not constantly anxious, if we're not constantly reacting to all of these things and controlling these things, that bad things will happen. Either we'll do bad things will happen around us, bad things will happen to the people we care about. And this is why I find it so important to even not make it even about cutting out compulsions, but make it about what are the healthy things that I want to do for myself and for those around. And that's what the practice is really about. It's about seeing that in the past, and so I talked about this a bunch in You Are Not a Rock, the book is split. And the second half is all about learning that we've basically fueled our life just with anxiety and fear. Right? It's always been, I have to be afraid of something so that I can live my life. And what we do is we switch the engine in that car and say, now I'm going to use values. I am going to do the things that I care about, do the things that are healthy for myself, that are healthy for people around me, that are healthy for my community. And that's a practice that we build and grow. And so making that shift can be really useful because, again, going back to the problem-solving monster, if it's always just about, I need to fix this problem, even like, oh, I need to fix whatever stuff in my head by having compulsions, we just lock ourselves into it. And inevitably, the thing to keep in mind is, right, when we do compulsions, we always end up creating the very things we're afraid of. So it's way more useful to build our lives and our practices and mental health and recovery around where we want to go. Right? What do we want to give our time and energy to in life? I see intrusive thoughts about coronavirus. The coronavirus is out there. I hope everybody is doing well with taking care of your communities. This is really an awesome opportunity to look at how you give time and energy to caring for yourself and caring for others proactively. And of course, keep in mind too, so even if you're having intrusive thoughts about coronavirus, I have a video up on health anxiety, so check that out. And again, it's really about pivoting, noticing that fear. Oh, like whether it's I'm afraid of dying, I'm afraid of being responsible for giving other people coronavirus, whatever. Why does that matter to me? And then pivoting to, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to care for yourself proactively? How are you going to care for your community proactively? How are you going to do healthy things? And not start doing compulsions as a reaction to fear. Because what happens then is you end up doing things that are really unhealthy for you and unhealthy for others. As we have seen in poison control centers, calls have, in many places, I've seen only some research so far, but like have doubled. Many places have seen their poison control calls double because people are doing really unhealthy things that harm them as a reaction to the fear of the possibility of something bad happening. And that's always how OCD and anxiety disorders work. I really hope the poison control is also giving people information on mental illness and recovery when they call in, because yeah, all those poison control calls are compulsions. Not the calls, the fact that people have poisoned themselves. That's just the typical like unhealthy compulsive behavior. Yeah. Let's roll over. Speaking of family members, how do I encourage but not push my partner with ERP? And this comes up all the time, right? We see a family member, a partner struggling, and we know, because say we go online, we Google like, oh, they have OCD, what do we do? And of course we read that there are these exercises they can do, but maybe they don't want to do them. Maybe they don't even realize there's stuff out there, but you've researched and you're like, oh, this person is really struggling. There's stuff they can do, but they don't want to do it. How do I get them to do it? The first thing, so two big things here. One, take care of your own mental health. That's super important. There's kind of this thing that mental health, public awareness campaigns like to talk about sometimes, like mental illness isn't contagious. But what we actually know in research is that it is. And it's particularly if you're in close quarters with somebody and you are also struggling. So much of compulsions and those things are learned. So much of anxiety. Somebody keeps telling us, yo, this is bad. Oh, we've got to fix this. Oh, no, this is a problem. We're going to start to believe it. If we see somebody doing lots of unhealthy things, we're going to start to pick those up too. So one, really take care of your mental health, because somebody else is doing unhealthy stuff all the time does not mean you have to start doing unhealthy stuff all the time. So I always say that's number one. Number two, also related to taking care of your mental health, make sure that you're good at change. I think one of the challenges we run into all the time, if we want somebody else to change, is that we ourselves don't know how to do it. This is something I often bring up even when it comes to things like therapy. Does your therapist know how to make a big change? Do they know how to make a change and sustain it? Because if they don't, how are they going to teach you how to do that? How are they going to know all of the challenges that come up with that? So I always mention that to partners, family members, and it's something, if I'm working with a family, I always suggest that the entire family learn how to make changes. And it could be something simple, because maybe you, as part of like lately, you've always wanted to wake up early, but you just really struggle, and you struggle to like turn your phone off before you go to bed, and so you just always end up staying up late. But you don't see it as a problem. So change it. If it's not a problem, if you're not afraid that you're going to kill somebody by putting your phone away earlier, then it should be easy for you, right? Because you want your partner to cut out compulsions, and they're afraid that by cutting out those compulsions, they're going to kill somebody or that they are going to die. If you cannot cut out a compulsion that doesn't even involve death, how do you expect your partner to do it? Because you're asking them to do something that you can't even do at a much easier level. So if you can start to learn how to make changes that don't even involve like death and all of that kind of stuff, losing really important things, then you'll start to learn. And then you'll have skills to share with your partner. They'll see that you understand how change works. And you'll also have a lot of compassion and understanding. And even already, if you struggle to make a simple change, oh, I want to start exercising, but then you do it and nothing happens, then you already know. It is really, really difficult to change. It is really difficult to sustain a change. And that's the thing we always need to look at, right? How do we do that? Okay, So there's another question there. Let's do another Instagram question. Yeah, we're at 11:34, and I think it's time. How did you overcome sex addiction? So yeah, depression and sex addiction were the things I first went to get help for. And again, it's really important to recognize that it's the same as anything. Right? You experience a thought, an urge, an emotion, whatever, and we think we have a thing we need to do. We think we have a way to solve it. And it's just like every other compulsion. So I would say really learn that what we're talking about with this stuff is about human behavior, human interactions with thoughts and feelings. I find it so important not to get caught up in the diagnoses and the labels, because in practice, in reality, they just don't apply. And we're seeing that more and more. There's more research being done, both the genetics, seeing that there's the very similar genetics across multiple diagnoses, but that also people have multiple diagnoses throughout their lives. And we used to think of these things as very distinct, but it helped me with getting over them to see that they're all the same. It's all about stuff coming up and then me making different choices. Because yeah, when I went to get therapy, they were actually, and during the therapy, they kind of said, well, like, because it was therapy specific to OCD, because it was part of a research program on OCD. And so they said, yeah, we can't touch any of the sex-related compulsions because those don't count as OCD. And that was the start of me just seeing how ridiculous the mental health care system is, because it was no different. It really is no different if you have whatever feeling inside of you and then you react to it and do a compulsion, right? Whether it's a substance you use, whether it's another person, whether it's porn, whether it's a door lock, whether it's mixing bleach and all sorts of other things you shouldn't be mixing because you're afraid of some virus, that's all the same. Right? Whether you're in a relationship and you do things to control and manipulate the other person because you're afraid of being abandoned, we'll give that one label. Whereas if you, in a relationship, you get a lot of anxiety, so you avoid the person and ghost and leave relationships to control that anxiety, we give that another label. I say that's all the same, right? You experience uncertainty around a relationship and you react to it. Same thing. And so what we got to do is look at the reactions and change them to be healthier. And so, yeah, so whenever you hear about any particular diagnosis being like more severe or more badder or whatever, it can really help to take a step back there and be like, oh, like what kind of human behavior are we talking about here? What's the experience in the brain? How can we interact with that experience differently? And then we develop exercises to do that. Yeah. And then it's really useful to do that. And so maybe that's a great segue into talking about OCD recovery. There were two questions here on Instagram I'm going to do together. So first one, what makes you believe OCD can be more than managed? Oh, it doesn't really like focus. What makes you believe OCD can be more than managed? So one, just like I haven't struggled with OCD for more than 10 years. A huge benefit to this was recognizing that it was all about me. And I know a lot of people may initially, you don't want to hear that. You want to think, oh, OCD, it's a problem with the brain, or it's like thoughts and whatever. And yeah, that's fine. You know what? People want to take that approach and they find that is useful to them. That's fine. If you do want to get over it, know that that is a totally possible thing. And again, like we were talking about there with intrusive thoughts, this is directly related to it. It was about seeing that it's about stuff I do. Right? I'm the one who notices a thought, an emotion, an urge, a physical sensation, whatever, and I get to decide what I do. And it's through that, like recognizing that I'm the one that has the power here to either make my mental health very bad or make it better. I'm the one that gets to have any experience and make a choice. And so, yeah, that's why I know that OCD can be more than managed. I mean, I haven't dealt with it in 10 years, and it would be impossible. Like, I would have to choose to start doing all the compulsions. I have to start to choose to like label stuff in my head and engage with it. and get wrapped up in all of those practices again, all the judging and the controlling of, and all the ruminating in my head. Like I could totally decide to do that, but that's up to me. And so really bringing it back into a mental fitness perspective, right? Thinking about physical fitness as well. Like you could say that, if you've been out of shape once, you can never get in shape again. But that really is about what we do. We can, recognize the bodies that we have. I can recognize the brain that I have. And based on that, that means there's things I can do that are going to be healthy for me, and there are things I can do that are going to be unhealthy for me. And so, now to go back to doing the unhealthy things, you would have to pay me a very, very large amount of money. And I don't think there's enough money in the world to pay me to go back to doing all of those unhealthy activities. So given that, I would say it's done. And so, the other question here that's kind of related is, how would you define your relationship with OCD these days? I don't have it. It's not a thing. Like I'm not I don't see myself as like, oh, I've recovered from OCD and I have to maintain recovery today or something like that. Or I don't see myself. I sometimes still, when I'll do like podcasts or go to events, people will write bios for me, and then they'll send me the bio or whatever, and it'll say like, Mark suffers from OCD and he will share about his symptoms today. And I always have to tell them, like, I don't, like, do not introduce me that way, because I don't have any symptoms. I'm not struggling with it or managing it today. Like it's just not it is not a thing. There is no relationship whatsoever. I take care of my mental health and fitness, and I enjoy doing that, and I do the things I do. And so know that that's possible. Really similar to physical fitness. Like everybody is at different points with physical fitness, and that's all. Like all of those are wonderful. Nobody has to change where their physical fitness is at. If you want to, that's doable. And I think what we've been missing for a really long time in mental health and mental health advocacy is we just say like, no, it's not possible. Just accept where you're at, and you have to manage that and struggle, and you'll suffer forever. And that, you should know there are other options here. If you want to get into like super good mental health shape, that should be doable. So that's why I think it's so important that the work I do now is about helping people do that and making that possible. And Alexandra, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the donation. That's a huge support. See your message here. I'm a teacher. This is Alexandra. Alexandra says, I'm a teacher and I'm currently not doing live video instruction. My students' families are upset. I post work, but I don't go live for privacy concerns. How do I balance needs of others and my own? This is actually a great topic to bring up on YouTube, because I started doing YouTube as kind of part of taking care of my mental health, and also as an exercise to do something I was uncomfortable with. And it came from looking at my values. So as I was exploring what I value doing, and I decided, okay, I want to make mental health and fitness more accessible. At the time, it was seeing like, I just want to make sure people can have more conversations about this. So we start to break down barriers. And then when I looked at, okay, if that's the thing I value, what is the best way to do it? And I saw through that video and YouTube at the time, it had been around a while, but it was like growing, and I was like, oh well, like video, and kind of putting myself out there to share about my personal experience was going to be the way that was going to generate conversation and make it more accessible to people. And so I saw that, therefore, I had to do video. Like that was the thing that was going to be most useful. It was going to help me do the things I valued. But at the time, I didn't want to do video. I'd never made a video with me in it before. I was always, and like very consciously, always making sure, because I had a video camera, but I'd only ever filmed other stuff, other people, and even if like I wouldn't even have myself interviewing somebody, I just wanted to have it on them. And I saw that, okay, like that's a thing I'm uncomfortable about. That's a thing I'm uncomfortable about. And how can I learn to accept that and engage with that and do the things I value? And so it really began there. And I think, no, like we still, if there are privacy concerns there, like really looking at, and it's really looking at how you can do it in a way that makes sense for you. And it might even be trying some things at first. It might even be, picking a particular spot in your home or something like that, where you feel you can take a video and it's not giving away anything in particular about your life that you don't want to give away. It could also be at first doing it recorded, right? Like actually just recording the audio and having pictures up, kind of like doing a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. Or maybe just having a short clip of you and then, going to the slides. So yeah, like I would look at those things, like what do you value? Because it doesn't have to mean we just, if there are privacy concerns, it doesn't mean we just have to throw them out. But it's really about saying, you know what, if this is what I value and this is what I want to do, how do I do that within the context that I find myself? And I find context is always really important to understanding what we value doing, so that we can say, look, like there are these other factors that are important. And so there's actually a great exercise that I love called the context map. I'll explain to you right now. You basically draw yourself in the middle, and then you can kind of put a little horizon, and then really look at all of the social, technological, environmental, economic, and political factors, as well as health and relationships. What are all of those factors surrounding you? And through starting to identify them, like really seeing what's increasing, what's decreasing, where am I supported, where are there threats, and just kind of drawing it out and mapping it out. Often through doing an exercise like that, we start to see what we need to support ourselves, but then also how we can really help ourselves. So thank you so much for the support and the donation. And I hope you find a way to do the things you value with your students in a way that makes sense. Thank you. Let's see what else is going on over here on the live chat. I've only got one more question from Instagram that we'll cover, and we got about 15 minutes left. So we'll do a little bit more over here. Noah. Oh, and yes, somebody was asking before about ADD, ADHD, and now I see over in the live chat, I see you about to get into a discussion on like, oh no, like this medication could cause psychosis and stuff like that. Just like, don't get into doing compulsions and chasing reassurance with each other. What you can do if you really want to work on attention, and this is something I always emphasize to people, something I found so important, because when I was doing compulsions all the time, of course, naturally, I couldn't focus because I never focused. If my brain threw up something, I paid attention to it, then I had to distract myself with something else, and then, another intrusive thought will come up, so then I'd have to distract myself some other place, and I had no attention span. It was one of the reasons when I stayed home to write a book that I couldn't write, because I couldn't sit and do anything. But also, I'd never practiced it. It is the capacity to focus is something we have to practice. It's like endurance. Like really think about mental fitness there. The capacity to build that, it comes from our practice, our mental fitness skills and exercises. And so we don't practice focusing, then we don't. Like that's of course that's going to be a capacity we don't have. Just like if you don't run, if you don't do cardiovascular exercise, like why would you have that capacity? Of course, that's something you wouldn't have. Meditation was a great way for me to start practicing that. And I also find that approaching meditation as a way to practice focus can be a really healthy way to engage with meditation, instead of approaching meditation as a way to like control some feelings or something like that. Right? It really is just like running. I want to see how far I can run today. I want to see how long I can focus today. And however long is totally fine. And it'll be a struggle and it'll be sweaty. And then the next day, I'm going to do it even further. And we just keep working on that and building on that. Derek, you asked a question. Can you explain the first sentence in your Instagram post yesterday about learning to experience whatever you believed was a valid reason to do compulsions. I'm not sure. I would have to go and check on Instagram. Maybe post a question under the Instagram post you're talking about, and I will respond to it there. Because then I'll have a better idea. I don't remember right now exactly what was the first thing I posted. And let's see, like you asked, a person asked to have a glass of water and you refuse it because you're having an intrusive thought. Give the glass. Yeah, like basically what you're looking for. Anytime your brain tries to interfere with stuff, do the stuff that you want to do. And that ends up being the practice. And this is in so many different ways. And maybe will bring us to this last question from Instagram. Doesn't mindfulness just delay problems? I should think about things to find a solution. This is talking about the problem-solving monster here again. So one thing, I think there's a misconception about mindfulness, that it's that we don't deal with life's problems, that somehow it's about just sitting there and being like, whoa, everything's okay, be in the present moment. Oh, let's not like judge that as a problem. Everything's cool. And I actually find the exact opposite when it comes to mindfulness, is that mindfulness helps me actually solve problems and do things that are beneficial to me in the long run. And that's because this kind of goes back to the discussion there about like not paying attention to things and distracting ourselves. Mindfulness really helps me, right, be in the present moment and say what's going to be most beneficial to me here and now. And then to do that thing with any feeling that comes up, because maybe it's a really boring activity. Maybe it's something I'm kind of scared of. And so that's why I say when it comes to problems, like thinking about a problem, how that's just going to create more problems. Doing something about a problem and actually, right, creating the things I want to see in the world, that's going to be way more beneficial. So mindfulness helps us go straight to the action and not avoid the difficulty of the action, because that difficulty is okay. We can experience that difficulty and be mindful of it. We can be anxious about doing something and welcome that anxiety while we tackle the problem. So mindfulness, and that's something to think. If you're thinking mindfulness is about avoiding stuff, really start to see that mindfulness is actually about stepping into difficult experiences, having those difficult experiences while doing the things that we care about. And those difficult experiences can be there. So yeah, with mindfulness, you'll actually find you get way more done sooner, faster, in more difficult situations than you would have in the past. So I would say definitely enjoy being mindful and doing difficult things. Oh, Graham, I see the kind message there. Thank you for following along with everything. I'm glad you found the videos helpful. Yeah, totally. That bring it on mentality is the way to go with any thought or feeling. And I would say, and to everybody out there, just generally, whatever you're struggling with, something that helped me so much was just seeing that kind of my goal with taking care of my mental health is to have any thought or feeling and approach it that way. Kind of like being, I sometimes describe it as an uncertainty athlete, but you could also describe it as an emotion athlete or whatever you want to say. It's about seeing that the emotions and thoughts and physical sensations and voices and everything, those are the weights in the gym. I want to be able to go into the gym and know that I'm going to pick up any single one of those weights, or I'm going to grab any one of those pieces of exercise equipment and I'm going to use it. And yeah, maybe I don't have to like it, but I can step into it and use it and lift it. And that's really the approach to take with mental health. Not getting caught up in like, oh, this feeling is different. Oh, that physical sensation is more severe or means something, or, oh, that's a voice, or that wasn't a thought, that was a command, so it's different. None of that. It's all just weights in the gym, and you can pick up all of them. And yeah, absolutely, some of them may be difficult. And so that's where, we have opportunities like this to collaborate with each other and talk about different ways that we can lift those weights. or ways we can do that exercise so we're not causing injury elsewhere. And that's really what mental fitness is about. I can have any thought or feeling. I can pick it up and I can run with it. And I can do the things I want to do. And so what's great about that is that when we approach it that way, it does not matter what the brain comes up with, because it's all just another thing the brain has come up with. It's an emotion. Okay, well, how can I have this emotion while I do the things I care about? And it's always that exercise. And so that's why it was so useful to have an approach like that when I was dealing with multiple different diagnoses. Because it was seeing like, okay, it doesn't matter that, okay, this person says it's depression, this person says generalized anxiety disorder, this person says sex addiction, this person says OCD. There were all sorts of other things, right? I didn't even talk about the paranoia, right, that I used to struggle with. I've done the videos on this because I believed the paranoia. I believed people were watching me. So there were all these other things that if I'd brought up, easily I could have gotten other diagnoses, right? I never told anybody I wasn't touching knives because it was like, you shouldn't touch knives, I'll kill somebody. So there were all this other stuff. But what really helped was recognizing it was all just stuff my brain was throwing up. And what do I want to do? I want to learn how to have that stuff and do things that I value doing instead of putting that stuff in charge. That's all. And when you take an approach like that, you can just tackle anything, because every single time is just brain stuff. That's all. Alberto, I see you asked about when the next book coming out. I do not know. I'm working on a nonfiction book, and then also right now, especially while I've been home a lot, I'm writing a novel that I'm really interested in. So who knows if that'll come out, right? You have to, with a novel, you have to finish it, and then you send it to try to sell it to a publisher. But I'm really enjoying writing it. And I like the plot and the characters, but it's also, I'm using the novel to tackle some topics that I think are really important, that I know lots of people struggle with, but are kind of difficult to talk about in a nonfiction book. So I'm really taking advantage of having a fiction book to explore some of these difficult topics that I know so many of us wrestle with, a lot of things that we've talked about today. And so I think it'll be really, hopefully a really interesting story, but also I think interesting to a lot of people when they themselves are dealing with some of the stuff about life and death and brains and relationships that our brains like to throw up. And Brittany, I see, we're coming close to time, but I see you asked about BFRBs, which are body-focused repetitive behaviors. And again, same thing, like starting to learn how when the brain throws up, that urge, that physical sensation, that it can be there. And now something to look at first is because we often get very automatic with BFRBs. And so an exercise I often give to clients when we're working together on stuff like that is at first to just set aside maybe 30 minutes or something like that. And whatever the BFRB is, to say, and approaching it like running or something like that. I'm going to do 30 minutes and I'm not going to do that compulsion. And the first couple times you do it, you probably do it. It happens automatically. And so through that, say that first week, I find it's really helpful to just be curious about it. So particularly when we see we're doing it automatically, why does it happen automatically? Are there particular judgments? Are there particular feelings that come up? What's the machinery that goes into that particular compulsion? And so that's usually the first week, just kind of this like trying for half an hour, maybe while working or something like that, not to do it and learn about it. And then in the next week, taking what you learned from that week, and again, trying whatever kind of situation where you might typically see yourself doing it. Again, can you go for half an hour without doing it? What do you want to do instead? And then it's your opportunity to start to like get ahead of whatever you learned from the previous week starts to trigger it. And then, so it's kind of a multi-week process of gradually pulling apart that machinery and then also extending the amount of time that we can go without doing it. And so I find it's kind of key to do both, because there's always like mental compulsions that are involved that kind of lead up to the physical compulsion. So gradually we start to dismantle all of it. And yeah, it's totally a doable thing to dismantle. But I find giving ourselves time, because what I used to do with things like that would be like, today it is over, it's never happening again. And that kind of all or nothing thinking doesn't always help us. And so just taking a gradual approach, like, just like in exercise, I don't exercise all day, but maybe for 30 minutes, I'll try exercising today, and I might fail all the way through, but I'll learn how to better support myself in exercising tomorrow. So, yeah, Brittany, good luck with the exercise. Derek, thank you so much for the donation. I will use that for donuts now. Thank you for the suggestion. It is great to have this discussion with all of you. Thank you so much for the support and engaging in this conversation around mental fitness. And really, I find it so important that we are having these conversations about the fact that we can get over these challenges. There are places we can go. This is possible and doable, but it's only made accessible by us having these conversations, and really exploring how we support ourselves with these difficult challenges. So thank you for making that possible, everybody. And I wish you all the best as we all continue all over the world to struggle with kind of the unique challenges of this season. But of course, if you ever have any questions or you want to talk more about this stuff, throw it down in the comments, email it to me, join on Instagram, all of that kind of stuff. So to everybody, thank you so much for joining in today. Have a great day. Enjoy having whatever your brain throws up today. Okay. Thank you, everyone.